Most people have never heard of this country, but hidden inside Guatemala is a volcano that erupts every single night. Not once in a while, every night. And just a few hours away from it, there's an ancient city buried in the jungle, lakes surrounded by volcanoes, and villages that feel completely frozen in time. Honestly, Guatemala doesn't feel like one place. It feels like several different worlds stitched together. The first thing you notice about Guatemala is the energy. Everything feels alive here. The streets are filled with color. Markets overflow with handmade textiles. Music echoes through old colonial towns. And volcanoes tower in the distance like they're watching over everything. There's movement everywhere, but somehow, it never feels chaotic. It feels human, real. And unlike places built entirely around tourism, Guatemala still feels deeply connected to its culture. Then you arrive at Lake Atitlán, and honestly, photos don't prepare you for it. The lake sits inside a massive volcanic crater, surrounded by towering volcanoes and tiny villages hidden along the shoreline. Early in the morning, fog drifts across the water while boats quietly move between towns. Everything feels cinematic, almost unreal. Some people call this the most beautiful lake in the world. And standing there, it's hard to disagree. Each village around the lake feels completely different. Some are peaceful and spiritual, others are vibrant and full of life, but all of them feel connected to the landscape in a way that's hard to explain. But Guatemala isn't just beautiful, it feels wild, especially once you start climbing its volcanoes. One of the most surreal experiences here is hiking Acatenango. You spend hours climbing above the clouds until eventually you reach camp beside an active volcano called Fuego, and then at night, the mountain erupts. Lava explodes into the sky while smoke drifts through the darkness. You can actually feel the ground vibrate beneath you. It's one of those moments that reminds you Earth is still alive. And honestly, watching a volcano erupt under the stars is something you never fully forget. Then Guatemala changes again. Deep inside the jungle, you find Tikal, an ancient Mayan city swallowed by rainforest. Massive stone temples rise above the trees, while monkeys scream through the canopy overhead. And unlike many famous ruins around the world, Tikal still feels mysterious. You hear the jungle before you see the temples. And when you finally climb above the forest, you realize just how enormous this civilization once was. It genuinely feels like discovering a forgotten world. Then there's Antigua, a colorful colonial city surrounded by volcanoes, cobblestone streets, old churches, bright painted walls. Everything here feels timeless. And maybe the most beautiful thing about Guatemala is how deeply culture is woven into everyday life. Traditional clothing is still worn proudly, markets still feel authentic, food still feels homemade, nothing feels overly polished. And that's exactly what makes the country feel so special. Guatemala isn't perfect. It's raw, unpredictable, sometimes intense. But that's also why it stays with you. Because this isn't a place that simply shows you beautiful views. It makes you feel something. Adventure, curiosity, wonder. And in a world where many destinations now feel overly commercialized, Guatemala still feels genuinely alive. Guatemala may not be the first country people think about when planning a trip, but honestly, it might be one of the most unforgettable. Because once you experience volcanoes, jungle ruins, ancient culture, and landscapes this dramatic, you stop feeling like a tourist and start feeling like you've discovered something rare. So now I want to ask you, would you explore a country this wild? Or is Guatemala a little too intense for you?